Starting.
Sister Mercy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Tammy's taking the opening prayer.
Hi. Yeah. So I guess we're just gonna jump straight in. First off, thank you everybody for joining us today, and we have a wonderful guest speaker today. So it's about to be awesome. So I'm just going to open us with a word of prayer. Lord, I thank you for today. I thank you for creating this day, Lord, and I thank you for strategically placing this time so that we should learn, Lord. I pray that whatsoever we hear today shall be a blessing to our lives, and it shall be something that we can apply to our lives, and we can also be able to take whatever we learn from here, Lord, and be able to use to teach other people. So we ask and we invite your Holy Spirit in this place so that we can look more than the carnal things, Lord, but we look into the deeper insight that you're trying to teach us in this place. So thank you, Heavenly Father, for this opportunity. For in Jesus' my name we've prayed. Amen.
Amen. All right, good evening. Before we get started, I just want to ask that if you can invite at least one more person that's in your contact that is supposed to be in this meeting that you don't see, just that one more person that can actually partake in today's blessing. Let's just do that in 30 seconds. Hit your phones, text them. Just look at the participants we have right now. I don't see a lot of us. I think everybody's we have just 13, 14, apart from the guest speaker, the teachers on here. One more person that you know. Tell me, where's Tafike? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I don't know. They went out like some time ago, but they're not yet back. I'll try to reach out to them.
He can join on the phone.
Yeah.
Vera, where's Wilson?
He's downstairs doing something.
You're in the same house with him. Let me see who else.
Okay.
That I need to put on the spot. Get all your choir members here, please. One more person. Mercy, can you get some of your technical people to join us? Thank you, guys. All right, while we're having them join, we just want to thank our speaker tonight for accepting to come and talk to us and share with us. He is Leke Ayanusi. He attends ROCCG King's Palace in Katy. He graduated from Travis High School in Fort Bend ISD, which is right here in Richmond, Texas. And he also graduated from the University of Houston in Houston, Texas. For those of you that always think you want to run away from home, Godwin, I'm putting you on the spot. And he works with Boeing in Missouri, so he's here to share with us. Thank you, and let's welcome him.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you very much for inviting me. Like Sister Peace mentioned, I'm locally from around you guys, currently based out in Missouri, where I live and work. I don't know how many people have been to Missouri, but it's very different. So it's been good so far. But today I was invited to kind of share my experience with getting out of college and jumping into the career. And from the information I've gathered, it seems like most of you guys are currently in college right now. which that's very good. I don't know how many people we have who are not currently in college. If you can kind of signify if you're not currently in college right now, okay, I see one person, two, okay. So for the rest of the people online at this moment, you are in what grade? You can unmute yourself and just let me know, so I know what the audience is.
I'm a junior in high school.
Okay.
I'm a senior.
Senior college?
I'm going to be a senior in high school.
Oh, okay. I didn't know who you, okay. Gotcha. Anyone else? So I got a junior and a junior in college, right? And then a senior in high school. Okay, anyway, pretty much how I kind of plan to just share my experience today is talk about a few things that I found that were valuable for me, and I'm going to talk about some mistakes and experiences, and I prefer this to be a lot more interactive. So when I ask questions, feel free to answer, share your experience, because that's the best way I can share things that will be valuable to you guys. I don't want to stand here or sit here and just talk for 40 minutes about things that you guys don't care about, if that's not what you guys really want to find out. But long story short, went to Travis High School. I fell in one of those buckets whereby I always knew I was going to do something in engineering. So it's just a matter of which engineer do I want to become. Some of you guys might not be there. You might not know what you want to study. Some of you guys think you know what you want to study, and you're going to either get to your sophomore year or your junior year, and you're going to realize that I actually don't want to study nursing, or I don't want to be a doctor for whatever reason, which is okay. However, the mistake people often make is not thinking ahead, because college is 4, 5, 6 years, depending on what you're studying. So if you were not thoughtful about what is it you want to accomplish and where is it you want to end up, then that transition between college and, ultimately, or I shouldn't say ultimately, the next step, which would be a professional life, would be a lot more challenging for some individuals than not. So for me, graduating high school, I thought I was going to end up out of Texas. I actually wanted to go to Georgia Tech. So I kind of got on the wait list for Georgia Tech, and some of you guys who are, transitioning into college, you're going to be familiar with the wait list. You're going to be familiar with paying for your applications and sending out as many applications as possible. The best advice I got then was to, broaden my horizon. I only applied to the colleges that I wanted to go, and I didn't apply to any other reasonable college like U of H or UTSA until I got that advice. So if you are, right now on the hunt and you have your ideal college, for example, if you wanted to go to Stanford and that was your college, don't only apply to Ivies. Make sure you spread out your applications, find 1 or 2 colleges that are reasonable, that have good education, fair pricing, and still apply to those. It's only going to be $100 or maybe $200, but guess what? You might be surprised at how high of a quality of education you can get still, if you decide to go to a school that it's, closer to home or whatever. So for me, out of all the schools, I really wanted to go to Georgia Tech. I applied to a bunch of schools in Texas. I ended up going to U of H. I got a scholarship there, and I went there to study engineering. And over my 5-year period of studying at U of H, I, obtained my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, and as well as math minor. So long story short, the first thing I want to share is there's a common myth about college, which is get it done in 4 years, right? That is not necessarily always going to work for everybody. Now, not to dive too much into details, on average, most people take about 5 years to get done with college, depending on your degree. For example, if anybody on the call is interested in STEM, you can wave your hand or, like hit the little wave button on there for the STEM people. So we got about 3 people that are going to STEM. So STEM is going to take you about traditionally at least 4 years. So if that's engineering, if you want to become a dentist or a pharmacist, that's about 6 years. If you want to become a doctor, that's 8 to 10, depending on what kind of doctor you want to become. If you want to become a surgeon, that's 12 plus years of academia. So you really want to be aware of the journey you're going on, and you want to set yourself up so that you actually maximize your experience. So I guess there's a question I like to ask, and if anybody wants to answer this question, is what do you think are the 2 most important things you want to get out of college when you're done? What would you say those are? Anybody?
I guess I'd say direction, a little more direction on where to go, and then also a community where it's like I have a group of people that it's like I can hit up this person in the future. It's like we can actually work on things together.
That's awesome. Somebody put, I think Ugo put in the chat a job. Feel free to use the chat. I can see everything, by the way. So that's really good. What I say is, if you go to college and you don't get an education and you don't get a network, then you've wasted your time and you've wasted either your money or your parents' money. Now, what do I mean by that? Like you mentioned, when you go to college, it's going to be 4 or 5 years of you meeting a bunch of different people. So me going to U of H, I met everybody from around the world, Brazil, Pakistan, India, Australia. So it helped me not only learn the interpersonal skills that I needed to succeed going out of college, but it also helped me develop relationships and friends and other people who are going to also potentially be in different career fields that can help you along the line. So for example, I have a bunch of friends who are engineers around the United States. Some are down in Houston, some are in California, some are in Tennessee. Just the relationships I've built, if I ever were in need to reach out to one of them and to talk and to ask for help or guidance along, a new career path, I have people that I can always connect with. However, what's important is that you develop those relationships. It's not that you only ask for help when you need somebody, which is pretty weird. I'm sure you all have that one friend that you own that only hits you up whenever they want something, right? As soon as you see that text, you know that they want something, and then you don't respond. So that's what I mean by a community. Have those friends. You're gonna need study groups. You're gonna need people who are heading in the same direction as you are. So for some people who are not in college right now, it might be, I just want to get away from home, which is fine. But what you're going to realize is on your first year, you're going to be you're going to have to make decisions on your own more than you've ever had, or you're going to fall into the decisions that other people around you are making. So if you so happen to meet people who have completely strange habits you've not developed, they're doing things that are foreign to you that are not things you would ever done from your background, you have to be willing to be bold to stand up and to say, hey man, I came here for this. I'm not doing that. And this is where I'm going. And trust me, they will respect you for it, right? People respect people who stand for their beliefs. But if you keep cowering left and right, it's gonna cause a confusion in their mind, right? They're gonna know that you are also confused, but it's okay to make mistakes. I made a bunch of mistakes, and I'm still here today, and I still made it through, and I still succeeded academically, and still put myself in a position. So that was the first thing that I think is important when getting out of college is a community. The next thing I would say is education. And what do I mean by that? Not just going to school. And I know a lot of us, you know, from the traditional African background, school was not an option for you. You never argued, you know, you can't argue about school. So what I want to say is an education isn't about the building you're in. It's about your mindset and your ability to learn. Anybody reads any book outside of school recommended books? When was the last non-school recommended book you read? That wasn't also the Bible. So when you're thinking about that, right, that shows you need to develop an eagerness to learn, because the things that separate the people that really succeed outside of college is their ability to learn. So for example, currently in the workforce, there is no book. There is no textbook for my job. There is no class. There is no tutor. The only way I learn is by asking questions and by looking at what other people are doing and by just going around and looking for the answers and trying to figure it out. It's by having that desire and ability to want to learn. So if you don't develop that in college right now, it's going to become very difficult for you to succeed when you transition into a corporate career. At least the first few years you struggle because you realize that you're not doing the things that you need to do in order to learn in this different environment. So that's what I mean by education, is just being willing to learn. Anybody who's in sports, there is no manual for sports, right? You have a coach, he tells you what to do, he or she tells you what to do, you execute it, you get feedback, and you know, you keep adapting and you practice. So like anything is going to take, you know, it's obviously going to take work, but I think those are two, for me, important things that I had to get out of college: was learning how to think, which would be the education component, and then just a group of friends, diverse friends from different backgrounds. So I don't just have engineering friends, friends who studied other things in STEMs, art, and things like that. So having that diverse network of friends is very useful going forward. Um, so a lot of individuals being currently in college, and like somebody mentioned, like Ugo mentioned, ultimately, when you're done with college, you like to get a career, right? Not just a job. I don't say job because a job can be you're working at Walmart, right? A job could be you're doing, you know, you're doing Uber, right? That could be a job or a gig. So ultimately, you want to build towards a career. And in order to do that, the most important things for those people who are currently in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade is experience. If you're in anywhere in that category and you don't have an internship experience, it's to your disservice. So what does that help you do? Let me put it this way. If a hiring manager was looking at any one of you, for example, a legend on here, and you were looking for a job, he's looking at you and he's looking at your resume and he sees no experience, right? You have a 4.0 GPA, you have all these things, but no experience. The problem with that is that hiring manager doesn't know how credible you are. He doesn't know whether to trust your capability academically versus how you're going to survive in the real world. So what I'm trying to say is you want to have a balance, right? You want to make sure that you're not just only killing school, but you're actually developing other skills that are going to help you not only get a job, but to succeed and to grow upon that and build a career. So what do those skills look like? You actually have to know your stuff. Like you actually have to get good grades. Now, not everybody's going to get good grades. I didn't get great grades. However, I was able to demonstrate that I knew what I was talking about, that I knew I had my knowledge in the classes that I took. I had projects that I worked on. So knowing your content material, for example, if somebody here is interested in studying business, right, whatever business courses you take, actually understanding the content of that, if it's macroeconomics, microeconomics, understanding the content and being able to demonstrate it to somebody that, hey, I've taken these courses, I've learned these things, here's what I know, and here's what I did, which is the most important part. Here's what I did with my knowledge. So a lot of people who don't have internship experiences don't do projects, or they don't do enough projects, which is the best thing you can do to like demonstrate that, hey, I'm actually putting my knowledge to good use. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Is anybody lost, or are we tracking? Good? Okay, cool. So with that part, it's just making sure that you know your content, know what it is you're learning, put in the effort to get good grades, and then take care of that part. Now, the next part you want to take care of, like we mentioned in community, is be involved, right? Develop your leadership skills, develop your public speaking skills, develop your non-tangible skill sets, your emotional quotient, how you relate with other people, your conflict management. Those are all skills that you're gonna need at any job, from what McDonald's all the way up to being a CEO of any company. You're gonna have to work with other people. You're going to have to need to learn how to communicate, how to get your ideas properly. You're going to have to learn to deal with people that are not from the same background as you. They're not from the same racial, economic, financial, whatever you can think of. And you have to learn to interact with these individuals. Also, developing your leadership skills will help you not only like draw people towards you and achieve a common goal, but it will help propel you so that you can go higher in the ranks in career, right? If you think about, the higher you go in career, the less technical your roles are. It's more people management, it's more decision making, it's more pressures. So if you think about somebody like Jeff Bezos, the CEO and founder of Amazon, he's not writing software code. He's not programming on the computer. He could be, but what he's doing, he's making daily decisions that impact the direction of the company. And that's at the highest level. So everybody who's just entering the workforce are dealing with more technical roles. However, the better developed your non-technical skill sets in communication, leadership, conflict resolution, and things like that, the more effective you can be at your technical role and in like growing and advancing, towards the next step in your career. So that would be the second thing I would say you should take care of. So the first thing being knowing your content, being good at your schoolwork, putting in your effort. 2, developing those intangible skills. And 3 is just experience. So from internships to projects, demonstrate that you actually are utilizing your learning. So for example, anybody here who is interested in computer science, software development, programming, any of those skills, right? All you need to do a project is your computer and a website. So you can start now, even in high school, you can start now, start developing your skill set, start working on projects. Because ultimately, if your goal from graduating college or finishing college is to learn and to get into the workforce, they don't care about what you studied after you graduate. Like, think about it. You get your job, nobody cares about what you did. They cares about what you can do. They care about how savvy are you to take what we give you and for you to make something out of it. So it's all about action in the long run. So right now you're building your foundation for your career. There's going to be a lot of skills that you're going to need to develop, obviously, but just taking your time and going through kind of each of those skills systematically between your freshman year, your all the way up to your senior year, will be super helpful. I think somebody had a question. Oh, that was a post. Okay. How does this apply to high schoolers? Okay, great. For high schoolers, your challenge is different, right? Your challenge is, how do I actually end up in a college that is going to give me the capabilities I need to succeed beyond college? Now, what does that mean? simply means you want to get in as good of a college as you can. You want to pay as little as possible, and you want to have the most exposure to life as you can from that college. So if I were in 11th grade in high school, what am I doing? I'm taking my SATs, I'm taking my ACTs. I'm studying so that I can get as high of a score, which means money. That's all that means. A high score means money. It's more money you can get to go to college, right? Let's say you didn't get a super high score. What else are you doing? You're applying to as many scholarships as you can. The Bill and Gates Melinda Foundation Scholarship, if you get that, they pay for any college you go to, full ride. So there are a bunch of scholarships out there that you can start applying for, even if you're currently in college or if you're in high school. So that's what I'll be focusing on. I'll be working on getting all the requirements to finance my college experience. Now, some of you are lucky and fortunate enough that your parents are going to support you, which is great. Now, I don't know how long you want to be dependent and waiting for your parents to support you, or how, that's up to you. But I'm an advocate for responsibility. Take responsibility of your life, take responsibility of your future. Your parents are there to guide and direct you and to help you, but don't chill out and wait for them to throw money when you can also apply for scholarships and get it, because you feel a greater sense of accomplishment by earning that scholarship, by earning that degree, by putting in all that work and landing yourself in a potential job that you want. So that's how I would say it applies for high school. High school, your primary goal is to just finance your future education and to figure out how to get into a college or an environment that can help support that. The other part I would say is you need to start thinking about what type of life you want to live. Now, a lot of us, we've heard the question of, what is it that you want to study? What do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? So here's the thing about that. It's very misleading if you don't think about it. Now, what do I mean? For example, there's this kind of story that goes, there's a kid that works at a gas station, a high school student working at a gas station, and he saw a guy drive up to the gas station with a Ferrari, right? And he's looking at the car, the kid, the student loves the car, and he's excited, and he's talking to this guy, and he's like, oh, that's a nice car. And the guy asking him is like, hey kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the kid is like, yeah, I want to become a police officer. And he was like, okay, great, that's great. And he was like, but do you also want this car? And then the kid was like, yeah, I want to, become a police officer and I want to have a Ferrari. And then the guy asked him, how many police officers do you know that have a Ferrari? Does anybody know a police officer with a Ferrari? Somebody's scratching their head. So
maybe they inherited it from their parents.
So what I'm trying to say is, whatever career path you choose, you're going to live the consequences or the benefit of that career path. And the thing is, your career path isn't a lifetime sentence. There's nobody that said, I chose to be a doctor today, and when I graduate, I have to be a doctor. Nobody said that. So if somebody came up to me, one of you said, I want to be a doctor, I'm really passionate about working in whatever, and then I'll ask them, okay, how many doctors do you know? Right? If you told me you don't know any doctor, I'll say, hey, go find a doctor, talk to them, ask them if you can shadow them and see what they do, right? Who better to learn from than an actual doctor and see what they do? If you wanted to become an engineer, I'll say, hey, go find an engineer, ask them, hey, in your engineering field, what do you do? Right? Because all, in different fields, it's all different. So you come, you say, hey, what do you do? What does your day look like? What do you work on? Can you tell me that? Can you show me? Is it okay if I come and, visit? Can I get a company tour? Can I do that? So at whatever level, high school or, freshman in college, even all the way up to your last year in college, try to gain the experience and understand what the professionals in your industry do if you can. It's worth putting in the effort, and it will save you more time in the long haul than than right now. So developing that is very important. And the other thing to that is, if you have decided what you want to be, for example, you want to be a business analyst. I don't know if anybody has that interest. However, if that's what you want to do, then you also have to understand that when you become a business analyst and you get into that role or that position, that's not the end of it. Your learning doesn't stop there, right? You didn't spend 12 to 15 or whatever, 18 years to go through school only to graduate, and now you just stop learning. You never read a book. You never do anything else. I'm not saying go back to school. I'm not saying get a higher degree, but I'm saying because you've graduated high school, because you've graduated college and you're now employed, does not mean that you can just stop learning, right? The moment you stop learning, you stop growing, your income stops. Like, it's just a lot of things die eventually if we stop learning and stop developing ourselves. So does anybody have any questions right now? I know I've kind of talked a little bit for the first 20 minutes or so. So just to get feedback from you guys and what your thoughts are, what you're thinking about your careers.
How do you know which specific scholarships to like look up for?
Could you elaborate?
Okay, like say for example, if you want to applying for scholarships, like which scholarships do you like think is the best for like students to go for, like maybe towards like the STEM or medical field?
Okay, so what I would say is almost the one answer to every question is it depends. For example, if you were in a STEM field, right, there are some scholarships, and I don't know every scholarship out there. I'm only familiar with a few because they're like really big scholarships. Like I mentioned, like the Bill Melinda Gates Foundation scholarship, anyone can apply to that. Now, some scholarships have restrictions. They have restrictions based on region, based on grades. Some scholarships have ethnic restrictions. You can only be Native American. Like they only care to. So what I would say is find a scholarship that you meet the requirements for. For example, if the scholarship says, hey, you only have to be a freshman in college and you're a freshman in college, then apply to that. Don't waste your time applying to scholarships that you obviously don't meet any requirement for, because there are a lot more scholarships out there that you do meet the requirement for that you can focus your energy on. Does that answer make any sense? Or did I answer a question?
Yeah, it helped. Thank you.
And if I can add to that, Deborah, I think most of your school counselors, high school counselors, have information packets on scholarships. It's just that sometimes they're serving so many students that they don't like get that one-on-one, like to like get to the specifics that may be beneficial to you. I know a lot of the counselors have those information listed out, and it's there, especially schools in our area. Most of them, because they're mostly Title I schools or have a percentage of students that qualify for Title I, they have those scholarships too.
Yep. Yeah. Take advantage of your resources. So going through the chat, somebody's asking a question. How do you get or apply for internships? And as for shadowing people, how exactly does that work? So Esther, do you mind unmuting yourself right quick?
Okay.
Okay, so what grade are you in right now?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay, you're a sophomore, great. What major or what field are you studying?
I'm going towards the medical field.
Okay. I am not in that field. I have friends who are. So the best advice I could say is to find individuals who've graduated and on their route to medical school and talk to them first. The next best thing you can do in terms of internships, for example, I don't know what branch of medicine you're interested in. Do you have an idea of what branch of medicine?
What do you mean? Like, what exactly do I want to do in the medical field?
So when you say medicine, it's pretty broad. There's dentistry, there's surgical, there's OBGYN, there's so many different branches. Do you have an idea of what part of medicine you?
I definitely want to be a surgeon. I'm thinking towards like bone orthopedic type of
Okay,
thing.
so orthopedic. So that's for example, guys, an orthopedic surgery, that's a long journey ahead. So I actually kind of can relate to that one right now. For example, I've been looking for an orthopedic surgeon in Missouri, and turns out there's only 2. Can you believe that? There's only 2. For the last 8 months, I've been trying to book this guy for 8 months. He's one of 2 guys. So when you're shooting for that high of a level in career that needs a tremendous amount of training, you got to take it steps at a time. So for example, she asked a question, internship. I would say just shoot for your local medical center. Look for in Houston, I keep forgetting what the Methodist or whatever. Try to go to the RN, either try to be in the ER, try to find some avenue and apply through there and maybe do a summer there. It doesn't, right now you don't have to specialize, or maybe yet you can find a local orthopedic surgeon and just say, hey, send him the person an email. Can I be your assistant? What does it take? Can I just shadow you for one day? Be willing to send out as many of those emails as possible. Sometimes you can find online applications where you can actually get roles and you can work in the hospital, and then you can network with everybody else there if you can't necessarily find an orthopedic surgeon to work with one-on-one because they're pretty busy. So that's what I would say, I would suggest. Does that answer your question a little better?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Esther, after the program, text me so we can chat. I have somebody that is in that field. Actually, Godwin had done his internship last year with them, so we can follow up on that.
Okay, I will.
All right. So I think I answered both parts of that question. All right. The infamous question. Vera, are you out there? Money.
Yes.
So, okay, what you have any advice on taking loans? Could you elaborate? What's your situation, or what are you thinking?
I mean, I was just saying, like, the school offered me loans, so I just wanted to know, like, like an advice of what I should do and stuff like that.
Okay. So when I say a little bit more would help, and I'll be able to give better advice for you, and then I can broaden it. Meaning, do you need the loans? Are you already paying for everything and you're good? What interest rates are the loans? Are they government loans? Are they private loans? So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any more detail?
Yeah, the one that I took is subsidized, so it's the one where it's like without interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I'll just give a general loan advice. So here was my approach. I'm a believer in being debt-free. So if you are in high school and you weren't able to get into the college of your choice, for example, you want to go to Georgia Tech, you didn't get in Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is out of state. You're going to pay out of state tuition for at least 1 year until you become a resident. You have to research what the residency clauses are about. Assuming you can't afford that, and now somebody gives you a loan, here's the lens you want to look at it through. First of all, do I really need to go out of state for my first year in college? You can ask, what are you learning your first year in college? All your world history, English, your college algebra, that's pretty much what you're doing for your first year in college. Can I go to HEC for cheaper and transfer? So you need to ask that. Does my college credits from a community college locally transfer? When you graduate with your degree, it doesn't say HCC on there. If you go to Georgia Tech, it doesn't matter how many years it took. It just says Georgia Tech, your final, you graduated cum laude or whatever, and that's it. Even your transcripts are probably not even going to say that. They might, but what I'm trying to say is, if you don't have the financial capital, don't jump into debt unnecessarily. If you really love Georgia Tech and you're committed, now the question I'll ask you is how much work are you willing to put in to subsidize your education? What does that mean? How much scholarships are you going to apply for? How much are you going to work on the summer to make money to save up for college? Are you willing to get internships? Are you willing to work that ugly shift at McDonald's so you can go to Georgia Tech? So all of those come into influence. Now, let's say you are coming to a local state like university, local school, University of Houston. They offered you a scholarship, Vera, like you mentioned. Look at the interest rate. So when it comes to government loans, there's a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan. And the only difference between those two is one of them, you have to pay interest as soon as you take the loan, the interest accumulates as soon as you start using the loan. For example, August fall semester 2020, if you take one of those loans, the interest will start to accrue. So for as long as you're in school, all your interest piles up. There's another one whereby it's a government loan, but the interest only starts 6 months after graduation. So for any of those loans, as soon as you graduate, they give you a 6 month grace period for you to start paying the loan. Now, if you know what career path you're in, and you know that you're gonna, right out of college, your career path has a higher income potential, it might be wise to take some loans. For example, I knew being an engineer, I wasn't gonna make a large amount of money, but I was gonna make decent enough money to pay off my loans, right? So I was like, okay, I have a scholarship, my parents are supporting me, I'm supporting some of it, so I can also take some of the loans and pay back, right? Having a good interest rate, 5% is pretty decent interest rate. So another thing you want to avoid with loans is high interest rate. 20%, that's highway robbery. That's what your credit cards charge you, right? So if you're not familiar with the math, you can go online, you can look for an interest rate calculator, and you can actually look at what the interest you would pay over the course of how long you took the loan. Now, private loans, I never took a private loan, but most private loans tend to have a higher interest rate, and I recommend you to be very careful if you're taking a private loan. Why? Because if you take a private loan, there is also, because if you take a private loan, you're at a higher risk if you don't manage it. And what does that mean? Any loan you take goes into your credit history. You not paying your loans appropriately will affect your credit history. And your credit, some of you guys, I don't know if you have credit cards yet, but your credit score, your reputation with your buying power is going to be affected if you have either too much debt or you don't responsibly manage that debt. 2, you can't default on your loans. You can't default on government loans. So you can't be like, oh, well, I can't pay this. Government, I'm going to declare bankruptcy. You can't do that. So you want to manage your loans by having low interest rates and don't take loans that you don't need. Does that answer your question, Vera? I know that was long. I had to break down the different kind of loans, but.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Next question. What is it like being an EE major? For anybody that's going to be studying STEM, any science, any engineering, any technology, good luck. What I mean by that is you're going to be busy. You're going to be busy through school. If you want to have a good, GPA, now remember what a GPA just shows is it increases your chances of being the first pick. For example, you've seen the NBA draft. People who are higher picks, who are higher ranked, are more likely to get picked. It's not that they're any better than somebody who might be ranked number 10, right? In the long run, the number 10 might, outplay number one. But the higher your GPA is, the higher rank you can get picked for interviews, for scholarships, for just any opportunity that your academic can present. So you need to protect that. What would I say you should shoot for? Above a 3.0. Can you be successful without a 3.0 GPA? Yes, I did it. Do you need a 4.0? No. But here's the problem. Because I didn't have a 3.7 GPA, I had to work harder to find a job. Because I didn't have a 3.5 GPA, some applications rejected my application immediately. Because I didn't have a 3.2 GPA, some places will not even interview you. They just say, okay, try again next time. So now, when you think about how you go down that list, the lower that GPA is, the harder it is for your name to come up in the application list, right? You might be a great talker. You might, kill the interview. But now you killed the interview, but there's another guy that killed the interview and has a 3.5 GPA. Who am I going to pick? Does that make sense? So you want to cover all your bases. You want to have as high as what I would say is shoot for a 3.5. A 3.5 is good enough whereby it's like, okay, this guy, did well in school, right? And then shoot for a leadership position, right? You were a leader of either NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, or whatever you might be in. You were a leader of, your student union, NSA, maybe Nigerian Student Association, maybe something, whatever it is. Show that you actually did something else outside of academics and you developed that leadership skill. Now, don't do 10 things, but when I was an EE major, I was restricted. I could either, study, I could either have a small part-time job, and the last thing was sleep. So it's like you can juggle 3 things, right? So some people can juggle a lot more, which is where the game of comparison is really important, that you don't compare yourself to anybody else. Yeah, I know John John doesn't have 2 heads, right? You've heard that analogy. Does John have 2 heads and he's getting better grades than you? Don't compare yourself to John. The problem is if you start doing that, you fall in a hole and you're not playing the same game that John is. John might have been studying all summer long. You didn't see him study. You weren't there. So you don't know how much work John has been putting in. You don't know if that was the 3rd time John is failing that class and he's finally getting it. So don't compare yourself. It's gonna require work. Anything does, but it's also gonna require you prioritizing, which was like the most valuable word I learned freshman year. Priorities. If your priority is education, if your priority is, becoming the best human being you can be so that you can go and advance in your career, or is your priority partying, or is your priority your friends? Now, I promise you, almost, I don't know, for anybody who's a sophomore and above, maybe you can testify to this, almost half of the people freshman year will probably not make it past sophomore year. They'll either transfer to a new school, they might drop out, they might switch majors, they might do something else. It's going to happen. By the time I graduated, it was like the same 3 people that were, that we were studying together out of like the other 50. And it's okay to switch majors, but don't fall into like the little game of going in circles. So for me, it was a lot of studying, a lot of heartbreak, failing tests. That's just part of the nature of the game. They're challenging, difficult tests, and going through that was kind of like a mental exercise, right? How willing are you to push through and put in the work that it takes? So somebody said, take risks. Yeah. LinkedIn. Great topic. Something I have more expertise on. If you are not on LinkedIn, you need to start building your profile, especially if you're a sophomore in college, junior, and especially if you're like about to graduate college. Here's why. What is LinkedIn? LinkedIn is not a resume. LinkedIn is not a resume. It is not a job searching site. It is your personal branding portfolio. What does that mean? It shows your skill sets. It's a live library of whatever you're doing to grow yourself professionally, in business, in whatever you want to brand. You can actively put that on LinkedIn. It's a platform where a bunch of professionals can network, and you can say, oh, this guy is really good at this, or I've seen his skill set, he's an expert here, I can network with him, I can connect with him, and we can probably partner or do whatever. And also, there are recruiters there who want to find talented individuals, but the best way for them to find talented individuals is to see people who actually build their profile up, to build their portfolio, not put a resume. Because remember what I said, you're telling them what you did. You're not showing them that you're still doing stuff. Right? So that's what I have to say about LinkedIn. Also, communication on LinkedIn is really important, right? It's not just about DMing every recruiter or DMing everybody. So here's the myth about getting a job. Not everybody can give you a job. The people that can hire you are hiring managers. Recruiters can't hire you. Recruiters get paid to find people that qualify, and if they pass, then the recruiter gets compensated. They get a cut, like, oh, you found a good, talented individual. Okay, we'll pay you for finding, you get a bonus for finding this person. Recruiters can't hire you, hiring managers can't. So what does that mean? There are more recruiters and more people in industry than hiring managers. So you just need to learn to network and build a relationship with people in the companies you want to work at. Oh, Esther works at, Dell, right? Me and Esther are friends. We're chatting, we're talking. I say, hey, Esther, I'm looking for an engineering position. Esther works in business, but she says, I know my friend Testimony over there who you can talk to, and we link up and we network. And Testimony says, hey, okay, you're great. We have some openings, but bring up your resume, let's go through it. Let's set you up. All right. And then there's a hiring manager that you can speak to, and then you can potentially get an interview. That's networking. Most jobs are gotten through networking than applying online, right? The application online process is solely for HR policy, which means that to make sure that people are not unfairly getting hired, like I'm not hiring my friend just because he's my friend, rather than hiring who's qualified and who actually applied for the job. So that was a good question. Okay, FAFSA, jobs, work study. Interest was higher than 11%. Okay, that's crazy. Who is that? Ugo, can you talk more about that? Let's talk about that.
So it was a private loan for dental school. I got to second year of dental school and I was just flat out broke. So we had to figure out how to continue the rest of the 2 years, and that's where well, I was an international student as well. So I was classified as an international student. The only way to get money was either from Nigeria to work. My scholarships ran out second year down school. So I had nothing to pay. So the only other option was to do private loans, and I didn't have any credits. And so they're like, whoop, well, that being the case, I had 11%. But one of my loans was 3.5. The other was 11%, depending on the co-signer that I had at the time. But I paid off the 11% fast as humanly possible so that that would be gone and not be like humongous, because that 11% was a lot. So yeah, that was what happened with that. Thank you.
Oh, so I'm glad you were able to figure that out. I hope you guys kind of got some firsthand light on that. Um, your situation matters. For example, if you're an international student, it is that much more harder to get a job. I don't know if anybody in high school right now is an international student. If you are, or if you've been in the States for a few years and you're turning of eligibility to file for your U.S. citizenship, I recommend you get your parents to get you on that. If you're not a U.S. citizen and you can file for it, try to do that as soon as possible, because companies have standards, their rules and regulations on who they can hire. And if they're internationals, there's other loopholes they have to go through. And it's easier for a company to just say, this person's good, but the only difference is international. We're gonna go with the cheaper candidate. So that's usually what happens a lot of the time. I'm glad you brought that up, Ugo. The other thing that remember I was saying with just learning is, guys, a lot of what you need in life is not in school. You're not gonna get taught that in school. Relationships, right? I call them 3 pillars, right? 3 pillars for success: wealth, relationships, and your health, right? Your health physically, we all know exercise, all that stuff, mentally, emotionally. So with COVID, we've realized that mental health is a really big issue, right? A lot of people were, looked like they were always good mentally until they had to stay in their house for 3-4 months, broke up relationships. Some people didn't know how to communicate. So that's really important. You got to take care of that. That will help you become more successful long term, but you're not going to learn that in school. You're going to have people you can practice with. You're going to be around so many people that you should be developing those skills, but nobody's going to sit you down and teach you, hey man, you really need to learn how to budget. You really need to learn finances. You really need to learn what an interest rate is. You really need to learn about credit and credit card. So all these things, when you graduate, you're going to have to deal with them. You really need to learn about basic taxes. For example, living in Missouri, I have to pay state tax. You might not know that, but if you live in Texas and you're working, you don't pay state tax. So now, if you are a graduating student and you're looking for a job and your job is between Missouri and Texas, and you just want to run away from home, but the companies, you could care less which company it is, and you don't realize that for every $100 you make, 8 of them are gone to the government by moving to a different state, you might really want to consider that, right? So your self-education is going to be the most important asset you have going forward. So thank you, Hugo, for that. Next person, do college look at unweighted and weighted GPA? Good question. Do you want to talk about that, Esther? So are you on a 5.0 scale for your weighted?
I'm not sure how it works, but my friends and I were talking about it, and then she said that they were looking at her unweighted GPA.
Okay. So does your high school run on a 5.0 scale?
Yes, it runs. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, because not everybody uses a 5.0, they'll most likely look at your unweighted. If they don't ask and you have, which I'll just say use whichever is higher. If they don't say which is your unweighted GPA, just use whichever is higher. But generally, they're referring to the 4.0 GPA scale. All right. Yes, GPA requirements to maintain your scholarship. This one is tricky. For anybody in college that has a scholarship and your requirements is based on credit hours, there is a little bit of mental gymnastics you have to do. What do I mean by that? when you get to your sophomore year of college, for example, if somebody here, you know, we mentioned somebody's in dental school, right? It's not getting easier. For every year you're going, it's getting harder. And if your scholarship requires you to take 30 credit hours a year, and now you get to like your junior year and you have all hard classes, 15 credits the first semester, and you have all hard classes, 15 credits your second semester, and you're only doing that to maintain your scholarship, I suggest you become creative in how you can bargain with that with your scholarship board, because you don't want to jeopardize your academic success for a few $1,000s. Here's why. If you struggle that year and your GPA drops, it takes about another semester of A's to bring back your GPA. So what does that mean? For a semester of C's, in order to average a B, you need a semester of A's for every credit. For, you know, for if you have 15 credits of C's, you need 15 credit of A's to average out a B. So you don't want to put yourself in a predicament. Now, if that means moving one of those classes to the summer, please do. Move the class, focus, do well, excel, and try to manage it so that you can still get your scholarship and still do well. Now, if you can't, that just means you have less room to play, right? You just got to be on it. Otherwise, you risk not just a scholarship, you risk your, your GPA going below what you want. This helped me in college.
No, I put that statement there when you said getting involved in leadership roles, and I didn't want to be in an SA or whatever in college, but I joined Big Brothers Big Sisters, and it gave me, it was pretty good for my resume.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, finding any avenue, whatever you're interested in, if it's service, if it's technical, it's really good. Even if it's sports, show them that you're capable of balancing your so it's funny now that I'm thinking about it. It's like when in college, we're always telling you, show that you're capable of balancing your grades and your outside of life. And then you get to the work environment and you see people who are like doing 60, 80 hours. They're not balancing it at all. So learning that skill early can help you manage that when you get into the career. So you're not working hours that you don't need to. There's a difference between if you're on purposely determined to grow and you're putting in more hours than, going through. Frats and sororities, we will get into that in a little bit. DACA, is that a debate?
Oh no, I put that in, I typed that when you were talking about international students, and I mean, it plays out differently for the status of each student.
Yes, it's very unique to each student, especially with what just happened recently, with the whole online class thing and Uncle Trump trying to kick people out. So we're not going to get into that, but if you are an international student, please pay attention to that. Please put yourself in a position whereby you can not only, stay in the country and succeed and, get the education you need. Please pay attention to that. Okay. I think I've answered. Okay. So the last big questions that come up with college is frats and sororities. I don't know a lot about them, but here's what I know. I didn't join a frat because personally, I was like, it's pretty weird for me to pay thousands of dollars just to hang out with a bunch of dudes. That's what I saw, and I didn't miss anything besides that. So from what I know in most fraternities, right, I don't know a lot about them, but if you decide to pledge or to go, to join a fraternity, that is a time consumption. Understand that. There's going to be you and several other people. There's a whole process. There's a whole pledging process and, selecting and all of that stuff that goes into it. There's obviously money involved, right? Paying your dues and sign up to membership. Now, they're obviously going to advocate the benefits, which the biggest benefit that they're going to advocate is the network, right? Obviously, when you graduate, it's kind of like when you say, oh, where are you from? Oh, you're from Texas. I'm from Texas too. And you guys are both in a different state and you kind of have a bond. So that's pretty much all I know about them and all that they offer. If I don't know, if you really want to make friends, I would say push yourself out there and actually talk to people. Like when you're in college, be open-minded, learn to talk to people, learn to engage with people, learn to be bold, because those will stick with you throughout your life of just like developing that skill set. I don't know if that really answered that question, but I don't have much.
Fraternities and sororities, they do take a whole lot of it. They do take a good amount of your time. But I also notice as a professional, I have a vocation, I'm a dentist, and just having fraternity sisters, they literally become your patients, they become your marketers, they become like, there's so much networking that can be gotten through that. Now, is it something I would advise you to do in college? Nah. But once you start trying to get into professional schools and things like that, I think that's also something that you can do because, hey, your interviewer for that medical school you're trying to go to, guess what? They may be in a fraternity, fraternity or sorority, and boom, it's a true win. Stuff like that.
Oh, sorry, excuse me, bro. To support your point, I think what she's saying is you have to be intentional about what you're doing. So like I said, if you're going to a fraternity because you want to make friends and party, you don't need them to do that. Pretty simple. If you open your mouth and you talk to people and you develop your social skills, and you obviously, that's assuming you had time to do more than, study and eat and take care of your other responsibilities. But professional fraternities and sororities might be more beneficial to you. For I know dentistries have some of that. I know I have friends who are pharmacists. They have their pharmacist fraternity or sorority. It just depends. I would say maybe your first year might not be the year you do that. Maybe first year of college, sit down, make sure you can manage your time, make sure you can manage your schedule and get through things like that. Deborah asked about study abroad programs. Can you shed some more light on that?
Okay, I'm saying because I know there's some colleges that offer like for you to get an extra opportunity like to like study abroad and everything to like say if you want to learn like outside of your own like country and everything, like should you take them or like should you like I don't really know.
So here's my view on college. Depending on your financial situation and your goals, your long-term goals, which is the last thing I really want to wrap up with, take them. Here's why. Once you're done with college, you're done. Like what? You're gonna come back for a master's degree? Like you're more hopefully serious then. Like it's one of the only times where you're gonna be surrounded by such a vast variety of people in similar mental wavelength, and it's going to be one of the few times you can massively develop yourself in 4 or 5 years. So what does that mean? If you really were not good at socializing, if you really didn't know how to public speak or how to talk, if you got scared anytime you saw somebody or something like that, that's when to do it. Talk to people, because guess what? You're not going to see a lot of them for a while, probably ever, right? If your college is 40,000 people, you might only interact with 1,000. And even after that 1,000, maybe 10 are going to be good friends of yours. Maybe 2 are going to be really good friends. And maybe you see 3 over the course of 5 years, depending on where you end up. So I would say take it, but you also have to look at your academic trajectory. What do I mean by that? If you plan on graduating in 2022 December, and you say, okay, I want to do the study abroad, and you realize that if I do the study abroad, I'm basically trading this experience for a potential internship, or or by doing the study abroad, it's going to push my graduation date back. That's a personal decision you're going to have to make. Is it worth it? If it doesn't influence you financially, probably, right? It would be a good experience for you to travel, learn, gain a different culture. It would also be something to develop you even better. Does that answer your question, Deborah?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Just to jump in here, it would really look good, especially if you're doing something like international business, that's your major, or international law. It would be a good idea to actually travel to those countries that you're studying about, kind of like get a feel for how it is in the areas that you go to. It's nice, and it would be nice in your resume if that's what you're looking for. But now, if you're just going to go learn Spanish, but you're not majoring in Spanish, and you're just doing it for the summer, then you really need to see like, are there other classes you need to take and put your money into, and maybe one day just go on a 2-week cruise to Spain? I mean, but you gotta see like what is the pros and cons for you. Okay.
So the last thing I wanted to end up with is, we've talked about a lot. You might not remember a lot, or you might only remember what pertains to you, which is okay. But the way I want you to think about it is about life setup. How do you want to set yourself up now so that in 5 years, you actually enjoy more of your life than not? Okay, what does that mean? If you currently don't know, remember what I said about how you want to live your life? If you currently don't know where or what you want to be doing in 5 years, that's something you should probably be thinking about now. Put some time into it, put some energy into it, because here's the reason why. If you know you want to become an astronaut, there's so many decisions you will not make because you know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, you're going to go in a loop, loop, loop. There's nothing wrong with going a loop if that's your journey to figure out where you're going, but you can do the work up front rather than wasting time and spending a lot of time going in cycles. So, for example, some of you want to obviously, most people want to get into a career after college. What is your ideal company? Somebody here is a computer engineer. Do you want to work for Facebook? If you're a freshman right now, freshman in college, and you're like, I would love to work for Facebook. That's my dream company. I'll do whatever, I'll do whatever it takes. Start aligning yourself to work in that company. What does that mean? Okay, what does Facebook take? What kind of skill set? They need you to be really good at what you do. Okay, work backwards. What projects can I do? How can I learn? What languages do I need to learn in the computer as a computer engineer? What do I need to study? What classes do I need to take? And hammer those out so that when you eventually graduate, now, even if you decide not to work at Facebook, guess what? You can work anywhere you want to. So there's a power in choice. For me, a motto for me is living a life of choices. And one of the best way to live a life of choices is to be excellent at what you do. You might not be excellent yet, but just strive for excellence. If you're an athlete right now, you might be an athlete in a scholarship. You might be playing basketball. You might be doing something. If that's what you're doing, make sure you're good at it. Make sure you take care of your books too, because guess what? After about 20 years, athletics is going to be over. You still need to be able to use your brain. Your brain doesn't die yet. So be excellent at what you do and just keep pushing yourself to be better every day. That's pretty much the simplest I can put it on, striving to become, good at your career and beyond. I guess the last thing I'll say, the caveat to that is your career is not the stopping point. Because you become a doctor, because you've become an engineer, it doesn't mean you stop there. There's a world of problems that needs to be solved, and we need people, bright individuals like yourselves to facilitate that.
Wow, thank you so much. It's been an awesome time with you, Brother Leke. We appreciate you. In summary, Messi is gonna come up, Messi or Joseph Fermi, to give us announcements, and then Sister Ugo is gonna pray. If you still have any questions, as usual, I think you guys normally go on the WhatsApp platform. Just remember, in everything we've talked about today, that we've heard today, remember that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And God has given every one of us gifts that we can use to better our lives, to better the work of God, and just to live a fulfilled life, period. But it starts with that relationship. So we're going to continue the series on career and college counseling. Next week, we have Dr. I forgot his name. Let me look at Dr. Dickin and Olia's text message coming up next week. And Leke, if you don't mind, if you still have time, can you come back when we invite you?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, all right. Okay, Messi or Fermi, can you do announcements, and then Sister Go is going to wrap up for us.
Okay, for announcements, we just want to encourage everyone to indulge in their quiet times. And we want to remind them that if you would like to invite any of your friends, we sent the flyer onto the WhatsApp group chat. And if you would like to look at any of the other services, just go on YouTube, and the link will be sent also on the WhatsApp platform.
Thank you so much, Joseph Fermi. All right. So, hey, I learned a lot. I have a motto. I learn from you. I take everything you say, and then I go to someone else and just regurgitate. That's my motto. And hey, it works as long as it's true, because I always make sure I check my facts. But okay, so thank you guys. Thank you, Brother Leke, for coming. We're so grateful. That was a lot of information that we have to put together. I hope everyone benefited from it as much as I did, even though I'm not looking to go to school, but yet I know okay, cool, this is good information. All right, in Jesus' name. Father, thank you for bringing us all together today. Thank you for just being able to look towards our future. If we're in high school, saying, okay, I definitely need to put plans together. If we're in college and trying to fix ourselves, Lord, we just thank you for this information at this time. And just understanding even what Brother Leke said, where he said, you cannot just look at what other people are doing and try and imitate them, but you have to figure out your own planning, what God has planned for you. So I'm so grateful for that. And Lord, I commit every one of us that is here today, that Lord, that we spend time to diligently seek you, spend time to understand what it is that we want to do, and do the best that we can, knowing that your plans for us are good and not evil, to give us an expected end, in Jesus' name. Thank you, Brother Leke. Father, Lord, we ask that you bless him, bless his family. Even as he's talked about work, that Lord, that you will increase his knowledge. And just like you bless Daniel, you bless him as well, Lord, in the mighty name of Jesus. That Lord, when he's opportune to come over and share some of the wisdom you've given to him, that he will be so excited to do so because of all the blessings you blessed him from today. We thank you, Father, for all of these and more. For in Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen.
Amen.
Can I say something to end off? For anybody on here, I know school hasn't started. A great resource that I always encourage people to read is there's this book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. Really great book to help you understand how you think. Because everything we just talked about, I'm really happy that we are having this conversation, because a lot of things like this didn't happen when I was in college. But just a resource, a tangible resource, get the book. I'll type it in the chat. Mindset by Carol Dweck. If you don't want to buy it, your library will probably have an ebook copy, or get an audiobook or something. Just go through it, because that will really help you understand if you're open-minded towards growing yourself, or where you're stuck in. Because if you're stuck, if you're not growth minded, none of what I said today will make any sense to you because you wouldn't apply it, right? It wouldn't matter who speaks, right? You only have to apply one thing in this whole thing, and then that will create a chain effect. So that's like my ask of everyone is like, wherever you are, whatever we've talked about, I've learned a few things today. Just make sure you apply something. Don't let it sit, because in 48 hours, the brain forgets almost everything we'll talk about.
Okay, Messi, can you wrap up for us? And if you guys want to extend it to your WhatsApp chat, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Leke, for the career talk that we had this evening. If anybody else has questions, like Joseph Army said, you guys can definitely ask that in the WhatsApp group. This recording will be on our channel, so definitely wait for that. Hopefully by tomorrow it should be up, if not later on tonight. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week, Sunday at 7 p.m.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, guys, take care.
You too.
Thank you, bye.